Western heaven bee. The western honeybee is the one everyone pictures, and it carries a strange weapon. Its sting is a single-use harpoon. The barb lodges in mammal skin, and when the bee pulls away, it tears out the stinger along with part of its own abdomen, gut, and nerves. The wound is fatal, a defender that disembowels itself to drive you off. That barb was never built as a suicide device. Against other insects, a honeybee stings again and again and survives. It dies only when the barb catches in thick skin, like ours. Once the stinger is torn loose, it keeps working without her, its own knot of nerves sawing the barbs deeper, while the venom sac pumps on for minutes. Inside the hive, fate is decided by food. A queen and a worker hatch from identical eggs, and diet alone sets them apart. Larvae flooded with royal jelly become queens. The rest grow into sterile workers. Returning foragers share directions by dancing. The angle of a waggle run points toward the sun, and its length measures how far the flowers lie. Their honey may be the longest-lasting food on Earth. Low in water, faintly acidic, carrying a trace of bee-made peroxide, it barely spoils. Sealed jars from Egyptian tombs are said to remain edible after 3,000 years. Bumblebee. A bumblebee lands on the flowers in your garden, and it is reading them in a way you never could. Fine hairs across its body pick up the faint electric field every bloom carries, bending the way your hair lifts near a charged balloon. This is electroreception, a sense usually found in fish and sharks, here at work in open air. Each bumblebee builds a small positive charge as it flies. When it touches down, it leaves that charge behind, so the next visitor feels the change. A freshly drained flower wears an electric sign reading empty, sparing the newcomer a wasted landing. For a supposedly clumsy flyer, it climbs astonishingly high. In a low-pressure chamber, alpine bumblebees kept hovering in air as thin as you would find above 9,000 meters. Higher than the summit of Everest. Closer to home, they do something stranger, rolling small wooden balls over and over, for no food and no reward. The first clear case of play ever seen in an insect. Some flowers seal their pollen inside tubes that only a bumblebee can open. It clamps the bloom and vibrates its flight muscles into a fierce buzz that shakes the grains free. A trick a honeybee simply cannot perform. Without that buzz, the tomatoes on your plate would be far harder to grow. Killer bee. Stand still near the wrong nest in the American tropics, and you may meet the so-called killer bee, a familiar insect with a fearsome reputation and an unlikely past. Every Africanized honeybee alive descends from about 26 African hybrid swarms that escaped a research apiary near Rio Claro in Brazil in 1957, after a visitor lifted the screens meant to hold their queens. One open gate reshaped a hemisphere. The dread is earned, yet the venom is ordinary. Drop for drop, it matches a common honeybee's exactly. What changed is temper. Far more bees launch, far faster, and they hold a grudge. A colony can sense a threat from around 50 feet and react to a mower or an engine from 100. Once roused, it will chase an intruder for a quarter of a mile and stay enraged for a full hour after the danger has gone. From Brazil, they pushed north at roughly 100 to 200 miles a year, reaching southern Texas by 1990, an advance slow enough to outwalk, but only just. They are blamed for around 1,000 human deaths, their victims often taking some 10 times more stings than European bees would ever deliver. A familiar little insect turned relentless by a single accident of escape. Vulture bee. A dead lizard on the floor of a South American forest can draw a crowd of vulture bees. 3 stingless species there have abandoned flowers entirely and live on rotting meat, the only bees on Earth known to eat flesh. Where other bees grow fat on pollen, these gather at a carcass and carve into it, helped by an extra tooth their pollen-eating cousins never needed. Raw meat should poison an insect, so their insides were rebuilt. The usual community of bee gut microbes has been swapped for tough, acid-loving bacteria, the same sort that let vultures and hyenas feast on carrion without sickening. A worker chews flesh from the body, packs it into sealed chambers to ferment for around 2 weeks, then turns it into a protein paste, using the very gland other bees use to make royal jelly. Meat honey, made organ for organ, like the sweet kind. The honey they store apart from the meat is, against every expectation, still sweet and good to eat. How they ever arrived here is an open question, reaching back roughly 100 million years. Bees evolved from meat-eating wasps, so no one can yet say whether these few clung to an ancient hunger for flesh or returned to it long after their ancestors turned to flowers. Carpenter bee. Out on the porch one warm afternoon, you might be buzzed by a big black carpenter bee that hovers in your face and darts at your head. That bold one is the male, and he has no stinger at all. The whole performance is bluff. Only the female carries a sting, and she rarely troubles to use it. She is the one with the real gift. Boring into a wooden beam, she carves an opening so clean and round it looks machine-drilled, about half an inch across, then turns a sharp corner to tunnel along the grain. Generations reuse and extend these galleries until they run as far as 10 feet through the timber. She eats none of it. The wood is only shelter, and she still feeds on nectar and pollen like any other bee. Their very name means woodcutter in Greek. Some blooms are built too narrow for so large a body, so the carpenter bee cheats. Instead of entering from the front, it bites a slit at the base of the flower and sips the nectar from the side, taking the reward and leaving no pollination behind. Honeybees soon learn to follow the same cuts. A heavyweight that builds with a carpenter's precision and steals through the back door. Orchid bee. A flash of metallic green moves through a Central American forest. A male orchid bee, at work on something no other animal makes. He gathers scent from flowers, rotting wood, even dung, and stores each ingredient in spongy pockets on his hind legs, blending them into a custom perfume. Apart from us, no creature is known to compose a fragrance. The craft is exact. Brushes on his front legs mop up the aromatic molecules. Oils from a head gland dissolve them, and capillary action draws the mixture into the leg pouches. When he is ready to court, he hovers and crosses his legs in a display that fans the bouquet into the air. The payoff is plain. Males wearing a richer scent win more mates and father more young. So the blend is a love song made of smell. Across some 250 species, each kind of male mixes a signature recipe all its own. The bond runs both ways. Many forest orchids have no other pollinator, releasing their pollen only onto these wandering perfumers, so whole flowers depend on a male bee's search for the perfect cologne. A courtship ritual that helps keep a rainforest in bloom. Himalayan giant honeybee. Beneath an overhanging cliff in the Himalayas hangs a single open sheet of comb, covered in the largest honeybees in the world, the Himalayan giant honeybee, a worker reaching about 3 centimeters, the size of a thumb tip. When a hornet swings in to hunt, the colony answers with one of nature's most startling defenses. Hundreds of bees flip their abdomens upward, one after another, sending a glittering wave rippling across the comb in a fraction of a second, like a stadium crowd doing the wave. The shimmer travels faster than bees could ever pass a signal one to the next, and it works. The motion throws up a buffer roughly half a meter deep that baffles approaching hornets and shoves them back from the surface, a shield made of nothing but movement. The honey itself can be dangerous to people. High in the mountains, the bees draw nectar from rhododendron blossoms, whose toxins seep into the comb, producing a reddish, mildly hallucinogenic mad honey that acts on the nerve channels of the human body while leaving the bees unharmed. To reach it, The Gurung honey hunters of Nepal lower themselves hundreds of feet down sheer rock on handmade rope ladders, working with smoke and ritual to cut the great combs free by hand. A harvest paid for in danger, for a taste of the mountains. Cuckoo bee. The name fits the method exactly. The cuckoo bee has given up honest work for theft and murder. Its young hatch first, ahead of the host's own brood, and the newborn larva comes armed with great curved, sickle-shaped jaws. Within hours, its first task is to hunt down and kill the host's egg or grub, clearing the nest so it can devour the food the rightful parent so carefully stored. Some strike on a grander scale. A cuckoo bumblebee queen slips into a thriving colony, kills the reigning queen, and leaves the orphaned workers raising her eggs instead of their own. A whole hive seized in a single takeover. This life is everywhere among bees. Close to 28% of one major bee family are cuckoos, roughly one bee species in 4 across some regions. Living as a burglar reshapes the body. With no pollen ever to carry, these bees have lost the baskets and brushes every other bee relies on, so many look far more like wasps. More telling still, they tend to resemble and stay closely related to the very hosts they rob, slipping into the nest wearing something close to a family face. A bee that gave up everything that makes a bee and thrives anyway. From a sting that kills its owner to a male blending perfume in the trees, the bee is far stranger than the familiar garden visitor most of us picture. More than 20,000 kinds share this world, and every one of them is hiding something.